For nearly 2 decades, Joan Lunden was the face of morning television, warm, trusted, and in millions of homes every day. But her story goes far beyond the anchor desk. She's a mother of 7, a breast cancer survivor, a caregiver, and now a best-selling author. Her latest book, Joan, Life Beyond the Script, is honest, it's funny, and deeply human. Today we're sitting down with a true trailblazer. Let's welcome Joan Lunden. Joan, thank you so much for being here.
It's delightful to be here, back in my hometown.
Yes.
Born and raised here.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're making it back to Sacramento. And to that point, can you talk a little bit about how Sacramento started just your career journey and everything you are?
Sacramentans will remember Harry Geis. He was a legend here for decades. And he followed me into the parking lot and said, there are some stations around the country that are putting weather girls on. And I'd like to make you Sacramento's first weather girl, which sounded really boring, and I didn't know a thing about it, but I fortunately knew an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
Let's do it. Let's give it a go. It's crazy just to reflect and think about how it wasn't that long ago when women weren't in news, women weren't in television.
And you know, when I talk to groups that have young women, I said, I was 23 years old then in 1973. Before 1973, a woman couldn't get a credit card in her own name, and you couldn't open a bank account, you couldn't buy a house. I mean, when you think about it, it wasn't that long ago that life was so incredibly different for women.
Yes, and then fast forward to speed it up where we're at now, you see just how much that you've paved the way for so many people, including myself. So a nod to all that you have done.
Thank you.
Very much so. And to talk about some of those pivotal moments that you kind of had collide at once from your career, motherhood, identity, when you found out you were pregnant the same day you were offered.
20 minutes apart. My agent called and said, I just got a call from ABC. They're going to hire you full time, and implicit in that, you're going to be the next co-host.
Yes.
I was like, fabulous, but I got to finish my story where I'm on in 20 minutes. And before I had a chance to get up and go to the set, phone rang again. My gynecologist, you're pregnant with your first child. And I just immediately thought, I have to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
Like you can't pass up the job. You just have to figure it out. And I remember calling my agent and saying, will you call the network and see if they'll let me bring my baby to work with me? And he was like silent on the phone. Because remember, this was 1979. In 1979, you couldn't say the word breastfeeding on television or breast. And I said, tell them I'm breastfeeding. I mean, I went into the restroom here and I see another door that says for nursing mothers only. We didn't have anything like that. And so, you know, and I'd done a lot of interviews with Little HA League, and I knew I should breastfeed. But it was just unheard of. To say there was no precedent is like kind of an understatement.
Yes, and I mean, we have to talk about too, because yes, you anchored here, you were here in Sacramento, did weather, and then you co-anchored Good Morning America, which we all know and love. So, I mean, what was that transition like, not only co-anchoring Good Morning America, but also, hey, I'm a mom now too.
Yeah, and I mean, for the beginning, I went there, I started with GMA in like 1977, became the host in 80 when I had my first daughter. And I had the first 3 daughters really during, you know, the 80s and 90s there at GMA, and they traveled the world with me. I mean, ABC was really good about it. I got to really give them kudos. They let me take, and I remember Newsweek and Time and all these different magazines were at the press conference when ABC, GMA was introducing me, and all they wanted to talk about was, how did you get ABC to let you do this? That was the breaking story that day. Not who is the new co-host of GMA, but that a major media company was allowing a woman to bring a baby to work with her.
Wow.
I think ABC thought it was going to be the best kept secret. I don't think they had any idea at all as to how it would impact corporate America, or how it would even impact our viewers, and kind of like open up that conversation to the fact that women were going to be working outside the home and having children. Because that was kind of the beginning of it.
Wow.
It's hard to imagine.
Yes, it is.
I know, it is.
And I mean, you started out in TV, a very male-dominated world, and worked your way to the top. So what did that journey teach you about trusting your gut and really standing up for yourself?
You know, when I first took the job, it was with David Hartman, and it was in his contract that there could not really be an actual person called co-host. I couldn't open the show, close the show, couldn't do any big interviews. But still, I learned my way, of live television, doing, 3 to 6 minute live segments and how to go with the flow as satellites went down and you had to, just all of that. And then by the time Charlie Gibson came, and I was a big proponent of Charlie, and he knew it. So he walked into my office his first day of putting his books away in his office and said, "Let's show America that a man and a woman can do a show as equals." I was like, "Buddy, you got a deal." and that was our relationship. He and I were like brothers and sisters. Like if I noticed he got dressed with one brown sock and one blue sock, I would be sure to point it out. He used to say, "We're like an old married couple. We can finish each other's sentences, but we just don't have sex."
And that's that. There we go. The TV married couple. And then after Good Morning America, how did you find the courage, Joan, to reinvent yourself while raising 3 young daughters? And what did that chapter teach you about resilience?
I think I was just exhausted after I left 20 years of GMA. And I needed to ask myself in the writing of this book, why didn't I lean in to staying on script, so to speak, and pop up on, another morning show or something. And I had those opportunities and I didn't lean in. And I think I couldn't have written this book until now, so I could look at my life as kind of this big arc, the 25 big, shiny, well-known years. And the last 25 years that I've really leaned into advocacy. I've testified for mandatory mammogram reporting with the FDA. I've testified before Congress to expand the Family Medical Leave Act, so they cover senior care as well as newborn care. I probably had an opportunity to make a bigger mark on the world in the last 25 years, kind of in a weird way. And I think it took until now for me to be able to say, you didn't need to do what everyone expected you to do. Like, look at all the things you got to do after that. But it was like an exercise in reinvention.
Definitely.
And I think that's a very important takeaway of the book, because we live in a world now where people are going to have to be reinventing themselves over and over and over as companies scale back and AI comes in and the whole job market is just morphing.
Yes.
Things that kids used to be told to go into. Look, no more.
We got to pivot and adapt.
And so people need to, I think, hear other people's stories as to how to be open, have your mind open and your heart open, and believe in yourself that you might be good at some other things, not just what you've been doing for the last 20 years.
Okay.
So that to me is a big part of why I wanted to write the book.
Yes. And
I put in video.
Let's talk about that.
We got to talk about this.
Yes, okay.
Because no one's ever done that before.
I was looking,
a memoir with video.
Yes, I was looking through the book and there's QR codes in there. Explain that a little bit more.
So when I went to find pictures in the book, because people are used to consuming me in a visual way, so I always put, this is my 11th book, and I always put a lot of pictures. And I'd come across something, I think, oh, that's a video, not a picture. Wait a minute. So I called my attorney. I said, can I put video in my book? He said, how would you do that? QR codes. He said, do you own all the video? I said, it's all on YouTube. Somebody put it there. He said, then it's public domain. So I have QR codes all. So I tell the story and then I show the story. So it's kind of fun. It's an interactive kind of memoir.
And looking at some of them, I mean, the QR codes, they go to your interview with Robin Williams, also seeing you do your advocacy work. Why was it so important for you for people to be able to see the work you've done that you talk about?
Well, I mean, we live in this world where everybody's used to video. I mean, it's just the way we think today. It's our expectation. And when I all of a sudden came to that moment where I was like, oh my God, I could actually do this. I thought, well, this is perfect for today, for this time. And also, it lets people, I mean, I love books. I'm just a super avid reader. I like historical fiction. And I wrote the book and turned it in the first time, and they said, this is an autobiography, kind of like a compilation of all the things you did. Your readers want a memoir. They want you to take them inside the moments and talk about how scary it was or how vulnerable it was. So we hired a memoir writer, and I took a year and a half to rewrite the book into what it is now. And I'm really glad I did.
Yeah.
Because I really take you inside my life.
Yes.
I don't need to tell you all the things I did. Most of the people have seen that over the years, you know.
And this is your 11th book?
11th book.
What would you say makes this one different?
Oh, this is my life story. I mean, the others have all been sharing chapters of my life.
Yeah.
You know, going to Good Morning America after having 3 kids, losing weight, and then when leaving Good Morning America, a book about change, A Bend in the Road is Not the End of the Road, going through breast cancer. But this is a book that just looks at, you know, I've had a pretty extraordinary career and life, and I thought it would be a sin not to share it.
Yes.
Like you can't not share it.
Yeah. And Joan, I mean, for me, I'm like, oh, you know, as a journalist, this book is for me. But I think it's also not only for journalists. Who else would you say this book is for?
Well, first of all, I hope it gets in the hands of a lot of young women so that they, almost from a history point of view, can understand that not that long ago, like just 4 or 5 decades ago, that it was so different. But for everyone else out there, quite frankly, it doesn't make any difference whether you're 25 or 75. Everyone now is still looking to stay in the job market, to still keep working, because now at 75, you used to retire, and I say, I got another 20 years, maybe I better keep working. So I think people will appreciate being motivated and inspired by just sharing the story of how I kept reinventing myself.
I think that's the key right there, the reinvention.
I think it is, yeah.
Joan Lunden, the legend herself. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, coming to Sacramento. We appreciate you coming back to Sacramento.
Back to Sacramento.
There we go. I'm going to let our viewers know where they can go for more information. For more on Joan Lunden and her latest book, visit joanlunden.com.